Hi everyone, my name is Atiri Rodriguez and I will be doing my presentation over Jean Piaget's theory. My theorist is going to be Jean Piaget. Who was Jean Piaget? Jean Piaget was a child psychologist born on August 9th, 1896. He was born to Arthur Piaget and Rebecca Jackson. He was born in New Chalet, Switzerland. Sorry for my pronunciation. His father was devoted to education and was a professor of medieval literature. He had a keen interest in local history. His mother was a French aristocratic family daughter. She had a perception that she was smart and yet a little neurotic, led Piaget to get interested in psychology. He made the suggestions to look for biological explanation of knowledge as part of his ongoing research in philosophy and logic. He didn't like the results of his philosophical investigations, so he focused on psychology interests. Piaget was a pioneer in child psychology. He refrained from the investigation of the 20th century, was one of the first psychologists to take children thinking seriously. He was originally trained in the area of biology and philosophy, considering himself a genetic epistemology. Genetic epistemology is the study of the origins of knowledge. Continuing on, what did Piaget believe in? Piaget believed that cognitive growth occurred in stages. Piaget studied the children through their teens in an effort to determine how they develop logically thinking. He attempted to document the stages of cognitive development by observing the memory process of children. Piaget wanted to know how children learn by observing memory process. Piaget wanted to know how children learn through their development in the study of knowledge, through experience. Piaget's theory is based on the idea that a developing child builds cognitive structures. The theory supports that cognitive structure increases with development. Cognitive development arises out of the activity of the child. Therefore, the best methods of education and development are those that foster activity or active learning of the child. According to Piaget's theory, all people in the world use the psychological functioning patterns involved in the adaptation. Piaget believed that the environment on a psychological level in the same way that creatures do on a physical level. As we grow, our brain grows as well. The stages of development include sensor motor stage, pre-operational stage, concentrate operational stage, and formal operational stage. With all kids must practice equilibration to advance to the next level. Not all kids go to the stage at the same rate. They all go at different rates. This is what Piaget believed. The ages assigned to each stage are simply estimates because each child is unique, as we have seen. The 4 phases are these that I just mentioned, and the first stage, just to summarize it, is the aptly named after how infants learn until the age of 2 from birth, and infants observe information through senses by touching, looking, and hearing, and they grow from that. For the second pre-operational stage is 2 to 7 years old. Children continue to build on the object representation that is significant to the sensor motor stage in different activities, different ways of improving what they already know. For the concrete operational stage is 7 years old to 11 years old. Children begin to represent objects and ideas in more logical ways, more flexible in their thoughts and ideas. The fourth is they're able to find reason and ask more concrete questions with reasonable explanations. Okay, the major critiques of Piaget's theory focus on his research techniques. The majority of patient studies was clinical interviews and observation from his own 3 children. Even though this kind of research has a high level of ecological validity, it's still regarded as subject because it interrupted any way the researcher thinks it fits. The exposure of the experiments his research was biased, according to many, because it could have been influenced by further research done outside of the field. And there was no accountability for the reliability by Piaget using his children and other investigations alone. The cognitive organization, which was the prosperity for the mind to be composed, to create a whole. These systems are coordinated in turn, and there are connections between the various connective process. We have adaptation and accommodation. The second was the cognitive adaptation, which involves the child changing to meet situation demands. The third one is the equilibrium, to pursue the balance between oneself and the outside world, is what equilibrium is. As the infant progresses along the development pathway, equilibrium keeps him or her in position to make progressive, successful adaptations. So there are 4 fundamental development issues on which each theorist goes through. The first one is human nature. No further drive for Piaget's theory is required. Children are driven by internal motivation. They simply exist and do to exist. The second one is quantitative changes happens as concept procedures or other cognitive abilities get stronger. As for qualitative change, instructor makes possible certain quantitative changes. As one qualitative changes making quantitative changes develop within a child. The third is nature versus nurture. The culture or education setting as part of social experiment. Equilibration is the fourth factor, unites and regulates the interaction of the innate and experiments elements. Lastly is what develops. Piaget relied on casual observation, clinical method interviews, and evaluation scenarios in which experiments take part. This means the child's nature path of reasoning would be distorted by too much experimental intervention or control, which is a factor of making it unreliable. Okay, application. How is it used? His idea of readiness is one in STEM. According to him, children can only benefit from teaching if they are currently prepared to use it the correct way. For example, being able to perform a multiplication problem instead of just memorizing the problem itself. Another crucial idea is that children learn best when they are actively participating in class, especially young children who have yet to attain formal operations. Evolutions of theory. These are our strengths and our weaknesses. Piaget's theory had its own set of advantages and disadvantages, but it had unquestionable spurred additional study in the field over time. The one strengths included a deeper understanding of children, particularly in the area of education, has been made by Piaget's theory. So thanks to him, we've been able to improve our educational system. Another strength would be the theory of Piaget had improved children's instructional methods and educational programs. Now, to list some weakness would include numerous studies show that Piaget's theory is based on observation of a small number of kids instead of the general population, which goes back to a weakness of the theory and making it unreliable because it was based on 3 children at first and then just another small pool of children. Another weakness is the impact of social culture development on the development is not taken into consideration in Piaget's hypothesis. And then I have some following ones. And that concludes my theory. I tried to summarize as much as possible and read super fast. Thank you.